What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Thursday. Dan Kasper Show's on the air. Radio dials, you got a couple of those 105.1 FM, 790 AM, also available online, sportstalk1051.com, where you can stream it up. Get the video stream also available on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, your Google and Alexa home devices, and of course the Sports Talk app. But happy Thursday. Appreciate you making this a part of your starts on this January 26th. When we got last Thursday, the month of January coming up here. So, hey, what do we got on the game plan? Good old game plan here this morning. Bucks picking up the victory against the shorthanded Nuggets last night. No Joker for the Nuggets, no Murray for the Nuggets, no Porter Jr. for the Nuggets, but hey, a win's a win, right? Bucks picking up that W last night, 107-99. Giannis doing his thing as usual, going 33 points, 14 rebounds. Dude was 15 of 22 from the charity stripe last night, 22 times getting up there. Drew Holiday helping him out with 20 points. Pat Connaughton having himself a game with a nice little double-double, 19 points and 12 rebounds, 5 of 6 from downtown, 5 of 6 from 3. Chris Middleton came off the bench again, 15 minutes in action, did get 10 points there. Bobby Portis sounds like he's going to be out for a couple weeks, then re-evaluate that knee that he suffered the other night. Sounds like it's a sprained MCL, so he's going to be missing a little bit of time, and then Bucks will re-evaluate after that. But Milwaukee picking up their 31st win of the season, improving to a pretty darn solid home record, 19-5 on the season. Bucks will be visiting the Pacers tomorrow before returning home on Sunday to take on the Pelicans, and they'll be staying in Milwaukee there for a little bit for the next few games. Nice little home stay there. So, we'll talk some Bucks. Also, we've got Badger hoop last night against Maryland. 73-55. Terrapins picking up the W against the Badgers. It was 32-28 heading into the half, but Maryland just dominating the paint, dominating inside, taking it to the Badgers there. And it just, I don't know if you weren't watching the game at the end, it just kind of felt like maybe they're all tired or kind of giving up at that point. But a lot of the same issues kind of popping up for this Badger hoops team. You talk about, the paint. Maryland scored 32 points in the paint last night. They had 50 shot attempts total. 21 were classified as either layups or dunks. So nearly half were layups or dunks. And a lot of it came in the second half. They had 18 points in the first half, but then they came out hot in the second half. They had 14 in the first 5 minutes in the second half there. So guard play and all that, just able to get into the paint, carving them up there a little bit. Maryland shot 60% from the field in last night's game. Now, if you wanna take some positives from it, from the Badger side, Connor Essegian, uh, 19 points, career high, shot 50% from the field, 6 of 12. Everybody else was, uh Steven Kroll had 11, Tyler Wall had 13. But after that, Chucky Hepburn just 3, Davis just 3, only 6 points off the bench for the Badgers, just, all coming from Gilmore too, so, ugh, struggling. Inconsistency from the offense too. Here's a weird nugget too. This was from, Rivals.com after the game. The Badgers were 0 for 5 when missing somebody from their starting lineup. 0 for 5 or the Badgers are 0 for 5 when missing somebody from their starting lineup. Record-wise. And as they pointed out, it's either a sign that UW is lacking the necessary depth, or players have not upped their performance to take up for the missing production. 4 for 5. You kind of look at the teams that they've gone up against, and I mean they should have at least won a few of those games there, right? But again, Connor Sejan, solid game last night. Looks like he's kind of trending upwards. The freshman, maybe a positive from this season. I don't know. Like this season started off so positive, getting up in the rankings, 14th, but now lately, kind of going through a rough stretch here, and you kind of look at their resume, maybe fleeting a little bit there. They need to do something to boost up that resume. Now they have played the fifth toughest schedule in the NCAA according to various rankings out there, and they don't have a bad loss, but they only have 2 wins in the top 40, which is against Marquette and Iowa. So we'll talk some Badger hoops and all that stuff a little bit later on here too. Whoop, almost spilled the coffee this morning. We're going to talk a little baseball as well as we are approaching pitchers and catchers reporting. Kind of start to think a little positive. The calendar is going to flip next week into February, and then halfway through February, we've got spring training, pitchers and catchers, and all that sort of stuff. So, what MLB.com and Fangraphs are kind of starting out with some projections and that sort of thing. So, what Fangraphs did was they and MLB.com posted an article. You can look at every team's out there, but every team's projected top player for 2023. For the Brewers, probably no big surprise. It's Corbin Burns, 4.9 wins above replacement. And remember, Fangraphs is also, I mean, they are projecting a big season for Corbin Burns because they're projecting him for a triple crown this year too. He's tied for the most projected wins of any National League pitcher, and he has the lowest projected ERA of any qualified starter in the National League. And he has the most projected strikeouts in the National League. So I'm like, okay, let's see what Fangraphs thinks of some of the other players surrounding the Brewers. We got maybe a couple of like surprising, interesting numbers out there. Again, it's just projections based off analytics and stats. We know it. Baseball's big into that, right? So, but we'll take a look at it and maybe a couple of interesting ones up there and see if you all agree with it or not, both offensively and defensively. So we'll kind of start to hit up that here a little bit. And remember too, I'm expecting offensive numbers at least, to maybe go up a little bit more with things to shift and all that sort of stuff. But we'll see what Fangraphs has to say there. We will chat a little football. A lot of conversation yesterday with the whole Rodgers thing, right? A lot of conversation, a lot of opinions and thoughts. I love it. Keep it coming. All right, everybody's got their own opinion. Nobody's right or wrong, so keep them coming. Just be respectful about it. But that's like the one. This is like, I don't know. It's got the fan base kind of arguing with each other, and that's man. But the one thing that when I when I've been thinking about this for the last couple of weeks, like the one thing that does have me intrigued about maybe potentially having Jordan Love or whatever at the starting quarterback, because the biggest question, or I shouldn't say biggest question, but one of the questions I still have surrounding this Packers offense is I don't know if we've seen fully what Matt LaFleur wants to do. And the reason I say that is because he is a branch, or he is a product of the Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan tree, right? We know that. He is a product of that. That's the system he grew up. And you look at the 49ers. Obviously, they have a fantastic defense. I mean, their defense is playing lights out. But you look at what they've been able to do offensively, and they've got, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. I understand that. But they also have a quarterback, rookie quarterback, who was drafted with the very last pick in the NFL draft. And he's putting up numbers, and he's having success, and he's playing well. And, I know I've mentioned it, with like the Giants and their offensive system, and you look at it, it's like, how the, they're moving the ball, and then they go away against the Eagles. But there's, and I know if you remember a couple years ago, when LaFleur was first hired and all that, and assuming it's still the same thing, but there is parts of a LaFleur offense. There's parts of what Rodgers likes to do, but there's an intrigue that at least I have, that if you put in a Jordan Love, do you, or are we going to see more of a Matt LaFleur style offense, and in turn maybe more of that Kyle Shanahan style of offense? Sometimes I think system quarterbacks, and I'm guilty of doing it too, but sometimes we use system quarterbacks as kind of a negative, right? Sometimes we label quarterbacks as a system quarterback, and sometimes it's perceived as a negative thing. But you look at what the 49ers are doing with, like, Brock Purdy and such, and you're like, "Man, seems like guys are always open across the middle, like, how are these guys, name players just kinda always getting open?" Gotta be the offense, it's gotta be the scheme, right? And the more you think about, like, with since Shanahan's been there, I mean, they've had, okay, so they started out with Jimmy G, right? More of a pocket passer. He's got a little bit of legs under, but he's not a Justin Fields or a Lamar Jackson or anything like that. We know that. And then, right before they drafted Trey Lance, there was this rumor rumbling that, oh, they want Mac Jones. And then they drafted Trey Lance, who is obviously very different style of a quarterback than a Jimmy G. But even before Jimmy G, remember the story that John Lynch, he tried to, he shot his shot, and he actually called up Belichick and asked about trading for Brady. And no, that didn't happen. So they got Jimmy G. But those are two pocket quarterbacks. They draft Trey Lance, but there was some rumblings. Well, is that the guy that Kyle Shanahan necessarily wanted? Maybe Kyle Shanahan wanted Mac Jones. John Lynch maybe wanted Trey Lance more. Who knows? I don't know if we'll ever know. But if it is Kyle Shanahan that wanted a Mac Jones, again, it's a little bit more of a pocket passer. Not saying Mac Jones can't scramble, and he can in that, but you got Trey Lance, who's a little bit more of an athlete. And then, we haven't really fully seen yet what Trey Lance can do within his offense, but you're seeing Jimmy G have success in it. Brock Purdy now have success, and Brock Purdy has some legs on him too. But again, it's not predicated on that. But you just kind of like, God, I don't know. You know what I'm getting at? Like that to me is one of the things that would intrigue me about putting in a guy like a Love or something, and maybe seeing what this offense is supposed to like fully look like. And then you kind of factor in, the leg part of it, a little bit more of a mobile quarterback. I don't know. Maybe we'll spit that back and forth later on here too. Speaking of which, NFL.com had their list of the most surprising or the most overlooked hero, I think they said, or contributor for each NFL team this year. They had AJ Dillon on there for the Packers. Would you agree that AJ Dillon should be on that list? Yes or no? It's a fired up Thursday too. So what's got you fired up this morning? You can hit us up with some text, tweets, Facebook stuff. Thirsty Thursday. You want to do some shout outs? Change it up there a little bit. Do some different shout out there. You can also hit us up with that. We'll have an outdoor tidbit with our DNR warden Jake going to be a little extended because he's going to be in studio here. So if you have any questions for Jake, now is the time to text those babies on over to the Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Again, if you want to help out with a little receiver defer, if you've got some receiver defer questions, you can send those babies on over here as well. All right. You can send those on over here too. So boom. Send them on over. All right, let's get things rolling here this morning. Coming up on the opening drive, we'll talk a little hoops to kick it off here this morning. Bucks picking up that W. Badgers, recapping those games from last night, and then kind of taking a look at some Fangraph stuff from the Brewers. Maybe a couple surprises on there, and then of course we'll get to maybe a little green and gold football chat since that seems to get everybody fired up on a fired up Thursday. All right, first break, opening drive coming up after these quick words. Looking for that perfect gift for your Valentine this year? Any ideas what you're thinking of getting? Well, for one, jewelry is out of style this year, so no need for that. Take it from me. Flowers, they don't last long this year. Get something that your Valentine really needs, and that's some new tires for their vehicle from ASAP Used Auto Parts in Eau Claire. It's a gift that gives in different ways. Not only will you be replacing those old unsafe tires for your Valentine, but having new tires will also help them improve their gas mileage, which helps them save some money. And speaking of being safe, getting those new tires will improve their traction, which is, well, we all know here in Wisconsin is incredibly important with all these snow-covered roads. Or maybe your Valentine is restoring a vehicle and they need that hard to find used auto part. Bingo! ASAP Used Auto Parts can help you find that part to complete their restoration project. So I gave you the perfect Valentine's plan. Now it's up to you to execute it. Head on over to ASAP Used Auto Parts in Eau Claire. You can visit their website, asapusedautopartsec.com, to make this Valentine's Day extra special. Already approaching the bottom of the hour here. Let's get things rolling on that opening drive here this morning. I will we'll begin things chatting a little hoops. Bucks PW last night, 31st of the season against the Nuggets, the first place team in the West, the Denver Nuggets. Denver was playing shorthanded. No Joker, no Murray, no Porter Jr. such, but win's a win. Bucks picking up their 19th win at home to improve to 19-5 at home this year. Giannis, 33 points, but dude shot 22 times from the charity stripe, making 15 of those. But he was close to setting career highs from the charity stripe there too. He was just two off his career high in free throw attempts. He said after the game, just tried to get to the rim, tried to be aggressive as much as I can, get downhill, play within my strength. I tried to enjoy the game. I feel I sometimes get too locked in. I think I've got to enjoy the game more. Usually when I enjoy the game more, I get to the free throw line more, I get downhill more, I'm able to find my teammates more and just make better plays. That was from Giannis after the game last night. Uh, Pat Connaughton had himself a night last night too in the starting lineup as Chris Middleton still coming off the bench, but Pat Connaughton 5 of 6 from the 30-point line, 7 of 8 overall, 19 points, and then getting it done on the glass too. 12 rebounds. Drew Holiday putting up 20. Speaking of Milton, did play 15 minutes coming off the bench, added 10 points there. So, as we mentioned, Bobby Portis, it sounds like he's going to be out at least a couple of weeks with a sprained MCL. They're calling it right now. Sounds like he will be reevaluated after a couple of weeks there, but doesn't sound like it's too long of a concern here. It doesn't sound like that. Now, anybody thinking does that maybe change the thought process of Serge Ibaka? Serge Ibaka and the Bucks have agreed to, kind of mutually agreed to part ways to move on. Bucks are trying to find that trade partner right now, but Mike Budenholzer saying after the game last night that it doesn't change the plan for Serge Ibaka there. Now they just got to try to find the best package, and knowing that he's more than likely probably going to be traded to a contender too. So, Bucks just don't want to give him to a contender that they may have to face at some point in the postseason and that. But we'll see how that all works out. Speaking of which, maybe keeping you updated on a couple of potential rumors out there as we get a little bit closer and closer to the trade deadline. Adrian Wojnarowski, NBA insider for the mothership at ESPN, kind of reiterated keep with the Jay Crowder issue or situation, not issue, situation that the Bucks still keep an eye on the Bucks when it comes to Jay Crowder. And as we mentioned yesterday, there were some rumblings and reports out there that the Suns kind of being a little bit there was some talk like maybe being a little difficult to deal with, maybe asking a little too much at this point. But I mean, at sometimes you do have to ask high and knowing that there's a lot of teams, especially the Eastern Conference and top half, kinda competing with each other, Western Conference, maybe some surprise teams in there like Sacramento. So, it's a bidding war. But Woj saying keep watching the Bucks' interest in Jay Crowder. Was looking at, some of the other stuff earlier this morning, involving some updated rumors and all that sort of stuff. Eric Gordon, again, is kinda getting popped up. This one was from, Bleacher Report that, interested teams include the Suns, Lakers, and Bucks. The thing is with Eric Gordon, he has another season on his contract at $20.9 million, but it is not guaranteed, non-guaranteed until June 28th. Unless, and this is the kicker too, unless his team wins the title or he's named an all-star, which probably won't be named an all-star. So that extra year does give the Rockets a little bit more time if they want to wait for the best offer or such. But also too, if they wait, I mean, Eric Gordon isn't a young chicken, right? He's not a young buck out there. So you kind of run the risk too of maybe diminishing the return from what you can get for him. And then if you're starting to hear another name out there, Will Barton. Will Barton. He might be a buyout option and from the Wizards there. And there's some rumblings that the Bucks could be an option over there too. Bucks or Nets. Those are just kind of your latest updates on some of the trade rumors surrounding the Milwaukee Bucks right now. I still feel like I know I would kind of keep doubling down on this, but I still feel like it's gonna happen. Like they're gonna make a move or two. Don't know what. I think they're gonna end up getting Jay Crowder. I mean, they have been on that thing, in the mix day one before the season even started for crying out loud. I think they'll get it done. I just don't know what else they'll have left to be able to acquire by the trade, but never say never, I guess, at this point. And you look at, this is the thing, dealing with another playoff team with some of these trades. It's like, obviously, these teams don't want to give up a ton of stuff. And right now, the Suns are sitting at that 7th spot in the Western Conference. They're 25 and 24. So they're just on the outside of that top 6. Dallas is the 6th spot at 25 and 24 too. So they're just right there. And they've been, obviously Crowder hasn't even played at all this year for the Suns. But the Suns, I have to imagine, will want a player that maybe can help them get a little bit of a push here to get into that postseason. Maybe even get out of the play-in rounds and get into that top 6 there. That's gonna be the difficult part of, trying to figure this all out. Like, Bucks may only want to trade draft picks, their second-round picks, and even though Crowder hasn't played at all this year, so the Suns necessarily wouldn't be losing a player from their rotation. Suns probably still want a player in return that can help them this year and get a little boost and maybe get into this postseason and make a little bit of a run. Outside of Denver, who's got a 2.5 game lead, then you got Memphis right behind them. It right now is pretty wide open in the Western Conference for the NBA. Your third place team right now is the Sacramento Kings. And I'm not trying to diss the Kings. I'm just saying it's like the Kings have come out of nowhere. Nobody expected the Kings to do what they're doing this year. They're in the third spot, 6 games out from Denver. New Orleans has kind of cooled down now as of late. 26 and 23. I know they've gone through some injuries, but they've lost 6 in a row, 2 and 8 in their last 10. The Clippers, obviously a team that's underperforming based off of preseason expectations. Golden State, the defending champs, they're in the 9 spot right now. They're at 500. I feel like the NBA champion right now, if I were to make a pick, it's coming from the Eastern Conference. I think the Eastern Conference is better than the Western Conference, especially at the top end. I don't think that's any bold statements or anything like that. But when you got Boston that's there at 35-14, Philly 31-16, Bucks 31-17, Brooklyn 29-18, the Cavs 29-20, Heat kind of climbing up there. They're 7-3 in their last 10, 27-22. Heck, I guess we even got to throw in the Knicks there a little bit. And Cam Reddish has been a guy that has been rumored, maybe a Bucks target there too. But again, how much are you willing? Like, apparently the Knicks are interested in Grayson Allen. Kind of have to navigate that. If the Bucks were willing to move on from Grayson Allen and give him to the Knicks for somebody, got to try to make that as even if it's a swap, or maybe it's an improvement for both those teams. That's what you're trying to get at. But that's going to be interesting to see how the Bucks can maybe potentially make some moves with some teams who are still in the playoff hunt here too. Because a lot of these names that have been attached with the Bucks, their teams are still kind of currently in a playoff hunt, except for Eric Gordon in Houston, who's bottom of the league right now with just 11 wins at this point. So, Bucks again. Next game coming up tomorrow night against the Pacers. Then they'll be at home here for a little bit for a stretch starting on Sunday as they take on those New Orleans Pelicans. Switching gears, I gotta sneeze, so if I pause here for a second, that's why. Badgers, ugly game last night, dropping to 12-7 overall on the season, 73-55 against the Terrapins of Maryland. Maryland's been pretty darn good at home this year, 10-1 at home. I mean, this is kind of an opposite of the previous matchup between these two. The only positive from this game has to be the play of Connor Essegian, 19 points for the freshman. But after that, oof, not good. Connor was 4 of 6 from 3, 6 of 12 overall from the field. Tyler Wall did contribute 13 points, but Badgers, especially in the second half, just getting dominated in the paint. Couldn't stop them. I know I mentioned these numbers a little bit earlier again, in case you missed it. Maryland had 50 shot attempts. 21 of those was either a layup or a dunk. Almost half. Maryland scored 32 points in the paint alone. And a lot of that came in the it seemed like it might have been a little bit more, but second half, they were just right away dominating, guard play, getting into the paint. Kind of out-hustled, it seemed like. We know the Badgers have a little bit of a smaller lineup. But this Maryland team was just able to get to the rim and finish. They were able to finish there. And when Maryland shoots 60% from the second half, 15 of 25. Whew. And then you're allowing that on defense, and your offense kind of continues a trend that we've seen a big part of this season. Where it's just kind of flounders. We mentioned Connor. That was the bright spot in the game last night. Other than that, yeah, you had a couple. You had Tyler Wall putting up 13, but only 6 points coming off the bench for the Badgers, and all from Gilmore. And here's a little bit of a nugget. Maryland started 8 for 11 from the field. Wisconsin's defense kind of made some adjustments in that. Terrapins went 7 minutes and 28 seconds without a field goal at that point. But instead of building off that, Badgers managed only 4 points on the next 10 possessions. Badgers did start off fairly decent, 7 of 8. I mean, I shouldn't say fairly decent. It is pretty darn solid, 7 of 8. But only 4 points on the next 10 possessions. They get through these waves, up and down. So you're looking at the upcoming Badgers schedule here, and they got to start building up their resume here a little bit. We know they got the 5th toughest schedule according to some of the rankings and statistics out there. but they need to start getting up some signature wins here. They got Illinois coming up on this weekend on Saturday. That'll be at the Kohl Center. Then they're at Ohio State, rematch against Northwestern, at Penn State, at Nebraska, Michigan, Rutgers, Iowa, Michigan, Purdue, beginning of March, and at Minnesota. If you're looking at it based off of just rankings wise, the only team that they're going up against currently right now that is ranked would be Purdue. And if this is a Badgers team that has shown the inability to, at times, crash the boards and get rebounds last night, struggled to defend the interior, I don't know how they're going to be able to slow down Purdue, especially since it's in Purdue. Badgers got to start racking up some of these wins right now. I was reading a little bit that if the 68 field was announced today, the Badgers probably would be in it, but they got to start getting some more signature wins added to the resume. And you look at their conference standings right now, and they're kind of lucky that everything's kind of grouped together outside of Purdue. But they're in the bottom half now of the conference standings, 4 and 5. They're 4 games back from Purdue. Only 3 teams are below Wisconsin in the Big Ten standings. Ohio State 3 and 6, Nebraska 3 and 7, Minnesota 1 and 8. They're tied with Maryland and Penn State. They're a half game back from Iowa. They're a game back from Michigan State, Illinois, Indiana. 1.5 back from Michigan and Northwestern. 2 back from Rutgers. So, I mean, that's what's helping Wisconsin here is the rest of the Big Ten outside of Purdue. Wisconsin racks up some wins in the Big Ten. They're back in this thing up in the standings and maybe getting a pretty darn good Big Ten conference tournament seed there. They gotta start racking up some of these wins. All right, let's take a quick break and then let's switch gears here to a little baseball. All right, let's switch gears here to a little baseball. It's going to go through some projections, Fangraph projections, maybe some interesting numbers here. We're talking about some individual players here for the Brewers. Who do they have as the highest rated offensive player based off of wins above replacement? WAR, right? Who's their second highest? And maybe their top 3 is. I don't know if surprise would be right, just because you look at their roster and you're like, oh, who else are they going to put up there? But let's kind of go through some of these numbers. I thought there were kind of some interesting projections, and obviously, as we mentioned, they've got a lot of high expectations for Corbin Burnes this year. They're projecting a triple crown for the former Cy Award winner. Maybe if that goes and that projection comes true, Brewers, if you still wanted to maybe try to figure out a long-term deal for Corbin Burnes, you might want to try to get it done here pretty quick if he hits that triple crown, because that price is going to go way up. All right. We'll take that quick break and then finish up the first hour. It's like a little bit warmer weather. We're going to talk some baseball after these quick words. It's now easier to order your favorite coffee from your favorite local coffee shop, Cabin Coffee in Altoona. You can now download the Cabin Coffee app and place your order, buy and manage gift cards, earn rewards all in one spot. So that next time you're craving that Twister Frappe, a Cabin Club, a white coffee, or whatever your favorite menu item is at Cabin Coffee, download that app and order ahead so you can enjoy your Cabin Coffee favorites a whole lot quicker. All right, we got about 9 minutes to the top here. So don't forget, you can send me your Thirsty Thursday shout outs. What's got you fired up? Maybe something good, maybe something bad. I want to hear about it. And if you've got any receiver defer questions, send those babies on over too. We'll get to that about 7:45. Or if you have a question for Jake for Outdoor Tidbits, Wisconsin Conservation Warden Jake Bolks, send those babies on over. We'll do a little bit of an extended in-studio version of our Outdoor Tidbits with Jake. So send those questions on over. Okay. We'll finish up the first hour talking some baseball. Then we'll get to some football talk coming up in the next hour here. But as we maybe get a little bit closer and closer to opening day, or at least pitchers, I shouldn't say opening day, spring training and pitchers and catchers reporting and such. We talked about, was it a couple weeks ago, Fangraphs had the projection that's of Corbin Burns, Triple Crown winner. Well, MLB.com and Fangraphs, they've got an article up where they have every team's projected top player for the upcoming season. And for the Brewers, no surprise, it is Corbin Burns at a 4.9 WAR. The 2021 NL Cy Young winner is actually projected for a Triple Crown this season. Reading a little right up here. Burns is tied for the most projected wins of any National League pitcher, 13. He has the lowest projected ERA of any qualified starter in the National League, 3.15. And he has the most projected strikeouts in the National League, 239. So we know Corbin Burns projections. What about everybody else on this roster, both pitching and offense? Well, pitching wise, Brandon Woodruff, again, no big surprise, has the second highest WAR amongst pitchers on this Brewers staff, 3.5. They're projecting a 3.47 ERA, 11 wins for him. Third, and as we mentioned, in those projections, they are very high on Aaron Ashby this year. And right now, they've got Aaron Ashby tied up with Freddie Peralta for the third highest WAR amongst their pitchers, 1.9. They have Aaron Ashby as an 8-6 record with a 3.29 ERA, which is actually, if we're just looking at the starters here, the second lowest ERA behind Corbin Burns. Freddie Peralta, 1.9 or 3.99 ERA, 8-8 record. Then they actually have Eric Lauer, fifth highest ranked pitcher in terms of WAR, 1.3. Then they've got Wade Miley at 6, Devin Williams at a 0.8. So that's kind of how your pitching staff is mixing their 6 starters, and then the closer, Devin Williams, right there. Matt Bush would be 8 at 0.6. Adrian Hauser's at a 0.4. Offensively, if we're looking at WAR, wins above replacement, they've got Willie as their highest offensive player at a 3.9. Probably not a big surprise, right? They're projecting 28 homers for the shortstop, 81 RBIs, an average of 243, on base percentage of a 316, slugging 440. Their second highest ranked player, offensive player, based off of WAR is Christian Yelich. They got a 3 on him, 3.0. They're projecting 21 home runs, 89 89 runs and 68 RBIs, 14 stolen bases, 248 average, 353 on base, 418 slugging. In fact, they've got Christian Yelich as essentially the second highest projected batting average for a full-time player on here, behind Jesse Winker. So, I mean, are you kind of buying that? And obviously it's not like a 280 batting average and 30 plus home runs and 100 RBIs. But are you buying Christian Yelich as the second highest offensive player for the Brewers in terms of WAR? Now, the third highest ranked player isn't, too far off. It's 2.9 wins above replacement. And that's Luis Urias, which maybe is a little bit more of a surprise because we're like, well, where's Luis Urias going to play? Is he playing third? Is he playing, second base? Is he going to be kind of a guy off the bench sort of thing? Well, Fangraphs has him as the third highest ranked offensive player based off WAR for the Milwaukee Brewers. 18 dingers, 242, 330 on base, 408 slugging. Rowdy Tellez is on here, 2.2. They've got him as leading with 30 home runs, 247 average. And then William Contreras, rounding out your top five. Also a 2.2 win above replacement. Average of 247, 22 dingers, and 67 RBIs. So that's your top five. In case anybody's wondering, Garrett Mitchell was a 1.7 WAR, which is actually a little bit higher than Jesse Winker, who's at a 1.5. Their projections, Rowdy Tellez, 30 home runs, Willie Adames, 28, Contreras, 22, Yelich, 21. RBI leaders, Tellez, 84, Adames, 81, Yelich at 68. We mentioned the stolen bases, Yelich, 14. He's up there too, so runs scored, Yelich, 89. So I'm assuming that they're, kind of still putting in Yelich or projecting that he's going to be the leadoff hitter for the Brewers this year. But those are some, thought those were some kind of interesting numbers. I don't know. I did at least. But man, oh man, can you imagine if Corbin Burnes goes out there and has a triple crown type season? And the thing is, they've got him as a triple crown projection, but you look at it, you kind of look at his win-loss record, and they're like, it's 13 and 10. 13 and 10 for win-loss record. But they're projecting 13 to be tied for the most wins amongst National League pitchers. They're having him as the lowest ERA. Most strikeouts. 13 and 10 record. That's why, again, I know we've kind of said it the last couple of years, and everybody's kind of saying, don't necessarily look at the wins and loss records when it comes to these pitchers, especially maybe for teams like the Brewers here too, because it won't, these pitchers be a few times where they'll get charged with a loss and they did not pitch like a losing pitcher. Some other projected wins: Woodruff at 11, Lauer 9 and 10, Aaron Ashby 8 and 6, Peralta 8 and 8, Wade Miley 7 and 8. Hauser they got at 5 and 6 here too. But you can check it out if you want to kind of deep dive into it more. Fangraphs.com projections. Look it up. This is under the Steamer. They got a few different ones out here, but I'm using the Steamer preseason projection on there. So, all right, shot clock's gonna cut me off here. We're gonna kick off the second hour with some sports nuggets of the day, brought to you by Yancey Associates. We'll do a little football chat coming up in the next hour too. What's got you fired up? Get your Thirsty Thursdays on over as well. And don't forget to send those questions on over for Jake. He'll be up about 8:15 or so. And then if you got any receiver defer questions, text those babies on over to the Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. 1 hour already in the books here. We got 2 more to go. Stick around. We'll be back after these quick news updates. All right, second hour kicking off on this Thirsty Thursday. Appreciate you making us part of your start this morning. Coming up, we're going to talk a little football, a little green and gold. Good conversation yesterday, a lot of back and forth and such. Thanks for everybody's thoughts and opinions on the Aaron Rodgers topic yesterday. But we'll talk some more green and gold coming up here in just a little bit. We'll get back to some more hoops chat as well. Don't forget, if you got any receiver defers, text those babies on over to me, all right? 715-830-1912, Shoe Doctors Bullpen line. Or hit me up on Twitter at DANKASPER or Facebook.com/Kasper Sports. Let's kick off this hour with some sports nuggets of the day brought to you by Yancey Associates. First of all, it is somebody's birthday, turning 89 years young. 89 years young, Mr. Bob Uecker. Bob Uecker turning 89 years today. How about that? Still going strong. Gotta love it. 1924, Charles Jetrov of the United States won the 500-meter speed skating. He was the first gold medalist at the Winter Olympics. 1985, Wayne Gretzky became the first NHL player to score 50 goals in 49 games. 1990, Steffi Graf won her 48th consecutive match. Do I have anything else that I want to go with besides this next one? I don't think so. So it was this day in 97. Where were you? What were you doing when you were watching this? There you go. So that was 97. Packers defeating the Patriots in Super Bowl 31. How old were you? What were you doing? Where were you watching? All that sort of stuff. I want to know. Okay, hit me up. What were you doing? Oh, you remember it. You remember this. I remember watching it. Absolutely. And I guess I'll throw a little like a trivia thing in here. Can you name? The Packers had 4 interceptions in this game, as in far different. Packers defense got 4 interceptions. Can anybody, without looking them up, can anybody name them? Name the 4 Packers players who came away with interceptions in this game. Now I remember this. Like I might be able to still name the entire starting defense. I remember I was in 5th grade for this game, and I remember leading up to it, our 5th grade teacher had a kind of a competition, or that's a contest, I should say. Who could name? You had to write them down. Who could name the most Packers on this roster in 1 minute? And I wrote. I ended up winning it. I remember this because it was, well, first of all, I remember stupid stuff, but I had 23 or something. It was in the 20s. I wrote first and last name, and I won the prize with a can of SpaghettiOs. A can of SpaghettiOs. And I was a 5th grader, and I knew 20 some of the Packers roster, like half of it, almost half of it, in a minute, and I won a darn can of SpaghettiOs. That was the prize. But my first ever Packers autograph as a kid came from one of these players who got an interception in this game. And it was during my first Packers autograph came when you remember, does anybody remember? And I grew up in Bedford. I don't know if they did this in Eau Claire. I know, but I don't know if they did this in Eau Claire or not. Anybody who grew up in Eau Claire, maybe you can tell me that. But when the Packers used to go and play basketball games, whether it was like the police department, I think for Plus, it was the police department, or maybe it was a police and fire. I can't fully remember, but they would come and play a charity basketball game. So that was the first time I actually saw like Packers players in person, and I got one autograph. I think at that time you were only allowed one. You had to pick a line, and you didn't know what line you were in. They just had empty tables. It was like at halftime, I think. So you had to get in line, and I picked one line, and it ended up being a starter from Super Bowl 31, and he ended up getting an interception in it too. I still have that hanging up in the man cave. So I don't. Did they do that around here? Like back in the '90s? Did they used to do that or not? No. I mean, they didn't. I think I went to it 2 or 3 times in Medford, and they never had like the. Not trying to diss them, but it wasn't the big names of these players. But this one was. He was a starter on this defense. So don't want to say the name because he's part of the. I'm throwing out that question if anybody can name the four Packers players that had an intercepted Drew Brees or Drew Brees, not Drew Brees, no Drew Bledsoe. Excuse me, not Drew Brees. Come on, Dan. Drew Bledsoe. Obviously, we know Reggie White had those 3 sacks. I think that was a Super Bowl that Desmond Howard won the Super Bowl MVP. But there was probably a couple people you could put up there. Reggie White with his 3 sacks, you could put him on there. Favre, 2 touchdown passes, no interceptions. Also had a rushing touchdown. You could easily put him on there. Now there was a couple players that you can make the case probably should have or could have won Super Bowl MVP in that one. But do you remember watching this game, or what were you doing? Maybe some of our older listeners, it was probably just like yesterday. For me, I was in 5th grade. I remember watching the whole thing. I remember watching the NFC Championship game, beforehand against Carolina, and that whole game, I was like holding onto a lucky rabbit's foot. I just wanted Green Bay to win so bad and get to the Super Bowl. So bad. So I had a lucky rabbit's foot, and I was holding on to it throughout that entire NFC Championship game against Carolina. Ironically, it was a blue one too. Blue lucky rabbit's foot. One of those that you got in the quarter machines. Right? Those quarter machines. Man, I wish they still had quarter machines because if they had the mini helmets in those quarter machines, that's where all this change would go. I'd probably even go and get some change made just to collect all those helmets. I know you can buy the packages all at once now, but that's no fun. You want the quarter machine, get the mini helmet, put the stickers together in a little face mask, right? It's more fun that way. And I wish I still had my collection as a kid. I had all of them. I still wish I had the old school ones. Man, good day, right? Good time. No, I'm really curious. Anybody remember watching that? Can you remember? Obviously, I was a youngster, but maybe for some of the older listeners out there, maybe because hey, you experienced the '70s or the '80s, and finally got that Super Bowl there. And I guess this. I'll throw out this question too, maybe for people around my age, so mid-30s, maybe a couple years younger, a couple years older, somewhere around there. Which Super Bowl resonates more with you? Is it Super Bowl 31 or Super Bowl 45? So if you're around my age, like I said, I was in 5th grade when Green Bay won Super Bowl 31. I remember it clear as day. When Packers won Super Bowl 45, I was out of college. I was in the workforce and all that, out of college, right? Year 2 years out of college. So it would have been 25, 24, 24. So obviously, a little able to maybe enjoy that Super Bowl more like an adult, if you know what I'm saying. Kind of get where I'm getting at there. But for anybody kind of in my age, because somebody had mentioned this, I think a couple years back. I don't know what we were talking about, but I remember somebody mentioning this that there's somebody my age that they resonate more with Super Bowl 45, and like it was his dad that it was Super Bowl 31. Like that was his dad's was Super Bowl 31. Super Bowl 45 was more for him. And I'm like, I don't know. That's a tough. Like it's so different. Like 5th grade, okay, you get to stay up a little bit late and watch Super Bowl. Yay, great. And then you're thinking, hey, it's gonna maybe be like this for a couple more years. Super Bowl 45, you're able to enjoy it a little bit more. So I guess a couple questions I'm kind of throwing out there. Anybody, can you name those four Packers that come away with a pick? Don't look it up. Do you remember watching Super Bowl 31? What were you doing? How old were you? And maybe for people my age, around my age, obviously, if you're a lot younger, you may not have even been around for Super Bowl 31. But maybe for people my age or maybe a little bit older, which Super Bowl do you which one resonates more with you? Is it 31 or 45? And I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of going back and forth on this thing for different reasons too. So, all right, tell you what, let's take a quick break, and then coming up, we'll chat a little bit more green and gold. I don't want to get down that rabbit hole again about Rogers coming back. Do you want him to come back? Do you not want him to come back? Blah blah. But we went through that yesterday, and a lot of comments and inputs and commentary analysis, which was awesome. Just keep it respectful and such. But there was something that would intrigue me about Jordan Love being the starting quarterback. I'll kind of explain that and kind of my reasoning behind it here too. So we'll take that break, and then we'll chat a little green and gold. But also, don't forget, we got receiver defer coming up about 7:45. I need some receiver defer questions, so send those babies on over. What's your plan for tax season this year? Meaning, what are you planning on doing with that tax return you're going to get this year? Well, let me make a suggestion for you. I think it's time to maybe use some of that tax return of yours on a new floor from Carpet City Flooring Center here in Eau Claire. Because chances are there is a floor in your home that's in need of an upgrade. It's that living room of yours, how have all that wear and tear and even some stains from over the years. Sure, they probably make some good stories or maybe even have a little bit of memories attached to it, but it looks awful. Let's not kid ourselves. Maybe that kitchen floor need an update. That's where my wife wants to get a new floor in. Or maybe it's the man cave rec room. That'd be my dream there. But whatever room needs that update in flooring, you only need to visit one place for all of your flooring needs, and that's Wisconsin's premier flooring store, Carpet City Flooring Center right here in Eau Claire. Just stop on in at Carpet City Flooring Center. Take a look at all the different selections of flooring they have. And if you have any questions, their team, they're super nice, so incredibly helpful. Love everybody over there at Carpet City Flooring Center. So put that tax return to good use and get that new floor from Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. All right. Nobody got it right. Some people mentioned a couple of the players here and there, but the 4 players to get picks in Super Bowl 31. Doug Evans, Craig Newsome, Mike Pryor, and the guy that I got my first Packers autograph from, linebacker Brian Williams, number 51 for the Packers defense. That was my first ever Packers autograph. I remember being so nervous as a kid. I think I was might have been shaking and such. Just so nervous. So, do you think if you could change it, if you could change the voting, if you had a vote, do you think Desmond should have won the Super Bowl MVP, or would you have given it to Favre with his 2 touchdown passes and his 1 rushing, no picks, or would you give it to White with his 3 big time sacks there? If you could redo the Super Bowl MVP, would you give it to somebody else, or would you keep it with Desmond Howard? Come on, have some fun with this. Let me know, okay? Make your picks. Tweet it, Facebook it, text it, whatever floats your boat over there. All right. So, okay. Also, the other question too, which Super Bowl resonates more with you? And I get it. It completely depends on your age and such, but maybe somewhere around like my age group, close to 40 or something like that. Which one resonates more with you? Is it Super Bowl 31? Is it Super Bowl 45? I remember obviously both of them very clearly, 5th grade or 2 years after college, starting the career there. So, make your picks. There's no right or wrong thing in this. I'm curious where everybody's at on that one. Okay, so again, big thanks to everybody who sent in your analysis, comments, commentary, thoughts on the Aaron Rodgers topic yesterday. We had a lot of them. We just got to keep it respectful of everybody's opinion on there. But I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again. We don't, that's going to be a talking point for everybody out there. But I will say this: there's one thing for me that I don't know if I would call it intrigue or maybe it's something that's on my mind here. Like, if Jordan, how do I want to phrase this without? There's one thing that I'm kind of wondering if Jordan Love, if he were to be the starting quarterback in 2023, would we see a different, maybe a more true style of offense? Maybe the typical Shanahan style of offense that LaFleur grew up under. Because, and I'll try to explain my thought process here a little bit. But, you look at the 49ers, and I understand the 49ers have some great offensive skill players, and I'm not taking away from them. Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. They've got offensive skill players. And Brock Purdy is playing well. I'm not trying to diminish him at all. But that's a rookie 7th round pick, the last pick of the draft, and he's having success within that offense. It does help he's got offensive weapons around him. Again, and he's playing well. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. But it also just makes me wonder, okay, if they're able to do that, and then, I know I mentioned like the Giants after their win against Minnesota and such or whatever, we're seeing these offenses, and I just wonder, like, if Jordan Love, if he's the starter for 2023, would we see more of that Shanahan style offense, or a quarterback, I guess is what I'm saying, a quarterback playing within the offense more, playing within the scheme that is out there? Because we know that it's a mixture right now. It's a mixture of what LaFleur likes. It's a mixture of what, the Shanahan offense is like, what he grew up under, what he was taught under, and it's got parts that Aaron likes. It's kind of a combo. We know that. They've said that. But let's say Aaron's moving on or he's retired, whatever. And Jordan Love is the starting quarterback for 2023. Will we see more of that? Let's call it the 49ers offense. May not have the same success, or may not be, have the talent at some of the positions like the 49ers have, but it's the same concepts, it's the same scheme. That's what kind of intrigues me with the potential of Jordan Love being the starter. Maybe we'll finally see a full-on Shanahan style of offense. And the thing that kind of I keep going back and forth on, though, too, is like, because we don't know if Jordan Love's going to be a successful quarterback or not. We don't. And the other thing, too, is like we don't even know if Trey Lance is going to be a successful quarterback. I'm trying to make comparisons between the two. And I was thinking about this last night, and I'm like, okay, so what kind of quarterback would actually really, really, really work within that offense? And you think about it, when Lynch and Shanahan got there, and then you can look at Shanahan, with Atlanta and Matt Ryan, when Matt Ryan was MVP, LaFleur was the quarterback coach there. And obviously Kyle's got a little bit of experience with RG3 when his dad was the coach in Washington. But when we look at when like Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch went to the 49ers, there was that, I think it was confirmed, don't quote me, but that John Lynch, hey, he shot his shot and he called up Bill Belichick and said, hey, you be willing to trade for Brady? And kind of chuckle, but he ended up getting Jimmy G. We know that Jimmy G is more of a pocket one. He's got some he can scramble around a little bit, but he's more of that pocket passer. Then you go to the draft a couple years ago, the Trey Lance draft. There was those stories, reports, rumblings that Shanahan wanted Mac Jones. He actually wanted Mac Jones. Whether that's true or not, and then there was the other part of it that it was Lynch, maybe some others in the organization wanted Trey Lance. Shanahan wanted Mac Jones. Mac Jones, more of the pocket quarterback. But again, he can still scramble. He can use his legs. But obviously different than what we've seen from Trey Lance. And we don't have a whole lot to gauge on Trey Lance in that. And now you're seeing it with, Jimmy G for, again, most of the season. Then Brock Purdy. Again, Brock Purdy can use his legs, but he's more of a pocket guy. And then we, obviously, when a couple years ago with the whole Rodgers thing, the whole hey, 49ers, pocket passer Aaron Rodgers. So I guess I'm kind of curious too, what quarterback would work better within that style of offense? Because I feel like if we would have seen Trey Lance a little bit more, and I guess I'm kind of comparing it, it might not be fair, Trey Lance and Jordan Love in an essence, maybe similarities between the two. But I wish we could have seen maybe Trey Lance a little bit more within that Shanahan offense, I guess is what I'm trying to, but I don't know if that'd be 100% accurate at that point. But I guess going back to it, everything, I feel like if Jordan Love is going to be the starter in 2023, we're maybe going to see more of a More of the offense that maybe we expected to see once LaFleur was hired. Because once LaFleur was hired, we were like, Shanahan tree. Obviously he was getting to talk because of McVay, because he was the offensive coordinator with Sean McVay. He didn't call plays there. Then he went to Tennessee and called plays there. But McVay and LaFleur all grew up under Shanahan. And LaFleur's got more experience under Shanahan. So that's what we were expecting, right? That type of offense. And I don't think we've gotten it fully yet. Because it has been that mixture between doing what LaFleur wants to do, adding what Aaron wants to do to it. And you could call it a system quarterback if you want. I feel like sometimes system quarterbacks kind of get a negative knock on it, depending on how you describe a system quarterback. Like some people say, well, Tom Brady was a system quarterback. Well, Tom Brady's also got a boatload of championships. So that's something that it keeps going in my mind here a little bit. And call it intrigue, call it curiosity, maybe call it crazy. But that is one thing that I feel like it would be different. Obviously, a lot would be different if Love was the starter, but having him as the guy, I feel like this offense would change a little bit, maybe adapt more to that, to what it should have been like, or what it should be within the confines of that Shanahan system. You know what I mean? You know what I'm getting at here a little bit? And I don't know if Love's going to be the long-term starter. Maybe it's somebody else. Who knows at this point? And you add the element of, hey, maybe a little bit more of a mobile quarterback. Finally, we saw Aaron at the end of the year kind of rushing a little bit and using his legs there a little bit. But I mean, let's be honest. It's clearly obvious his legs are not what they were 12 years ago. And you kind of wonder now, 2023, you look at some of these edge rushers. I mean, they are speedy, big guys, even some of these defensive linemen. You might need to be able to extend the plays a little bit more. I mean, because there was, and this might be shallow-minded of me, but it seemed like there was a lot of times or a few times with Aaron, like, okay, he could have ran for a few yards there, but decided to throw it into a tight coverage, throw it away, or something like that. And sometimes you just need, hey, pick up the positive yards and get those few yards there. Obviously, that would be an element added back to the offense with Jordan Love. And I'm not trying to make the case for I want this guy over this guy. Because I said it yesterday, I understand each aspect of it. I get it for both. I do think some of the arguments why you don't want, or why some people don't want Rodgers, is not 100%. I mean, the big one to me that kind of does, it's like, well, he's got $55-60 million cap. No, he doesn't. That's no. But I understand some of the reasoning, some of the arguments of keeping Aaron, moving on from Aaron, giving it to Jordan Love. Maybe you're just like, hey, I think Jordan Love's got it. I want to see this kid. I think he brings some interesting stuff to the table. Brings an athleticism that we haven't had in a few years. I want to give the kid a shot. All right. I could get on. I'd buy that. I'll get on that. Overall, it's all about what's going to help you win more games. Because that's all I care about right now. I just want to win. I want to win championships. I want to get back to the postseason. That's all I care about. I don't, whether it's Love or Rodgers at quarterback, whatever. I just want wins. W's. That's the only thing that matters to me. Wins. Wins, wins, wins. Whether it's game-winning drives by 12 or game-winning drives by 10, or maybe it's some other quarterback. I don't care. So I wins. All that matters to me. I can understand both sides. And there's, I would agree to some of the arguments and disagree with some of the arguments from both sides there. But how about this? Let's just play it. Let's just let this play it all out. Let it play out. We're so many people are trying to decipher comments that Rodgers is making or others are making, and this, that, and the other thing. Let's just let it play out. We don't need to sit here and try to figure out what does he mean by that, or why is he saying that. Let's not get down that path. We don't need that clickbait stuff. We don't need to do that. Let it play out, see what happens, go on from there. That's just my thoughts. So I just want to win. That's all I care about. I want to win. I want W's. And I think it could change one thing, regardless of whoever's at quarterback. I would like to see a more, going back to that offense thing. I want to see more of that Shanahan style offense. And I don't think we have seen that quite yet on a full on scale. I don't think we have seen that yet. All right, hey, we got to take a break. We'll do a little receiver defer. We got a few coming in on the texting line, so big thanks to everybody who texted on over your receiver defer questions. But last call for that. Also, last call for any questions for Jake, Conservation Warden Jake Bolks, answering your outdoor questions for Outdoor Tidbits. He's actually going to be in the studio, so we'll get to that coming up about 8:15 or 8:20. So if you got anything that's on your mind that you ever wanted to ask a game more, now's your time. All right, so let's take that quick break, and we'll finish up the second hour here with a little receive or defer. Also, don't forget, send over your Thirsty Thursdays and what's got you fired up. Feeling sore from all the snow shoveling we've been doing for this winter? Got some aches and pains from lifting all of that snow scoop by scoop? Well, we can't stop the snow from coming, but it is possible to help alleviate that pain with the help from Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Fantastic team from Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine can help reduce your pain and enjoy the ease of your daily activities. You can request an appointment today by visiting cvosm.com. And maybe you'll get an appointment with Dr. Crow, who you hear every Friday morning for Inside the Training Room right here about 7:05. All right. We got about, 11, 12-ish minutes. We got like 2 clocks in here. Actually, 3 if you count the computer. And they're all off by a couple minutes. So we're about 12, 13 minutes to the top of the hour. Let's do a little receive or defer. All right, so thank you to everybody who sent over some receiver defers. I think we've got enough to finish out the last 10 minutes or so. Receive or defer. If Jordan Love, I think Surveyor might have asked something similar to this a couple weeks ago. I could be wrong. But receiver defer. If Jordan Love is the starting quarterback next year, you still draft a quarterback fairly high in the 2023 draft. I will receive it, but not in the first round. And remember too, was it the 08 one? 08 or 09 draft. One of those two. Remember Ted Thompson drafted a quarterback in the second round when Aaron Rodgers just got the starting job too. Remember Brian Brom? That didn't work out. He also drafted another quarterback in the 7th round that year, Matt Flynn. Gosh, I wish Twitter was around when that happened. I remember Merrill Hodge, after the Packers had drafted Brian Brom out of Louisville, and he said that he was going to have the better career than Rodgers. Well, didn't really last that long. But anyways, I say receive. Day 2, I'd be okay with. I mean, we've seen, look at the Eagles. They drafted Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round. Where would they be right now if they didn't do that? Would Carson Wentz still be there, and they're still trying to get through Carson Wentz as your starter? Remember Washington did it with, they drafted RG3. They moved all the way up there to get RG3. 3rd round, what'd they do? They drafted Kirk Cousins. Seattle, when they signed Russell Wilson to Matt Flynn to that big contract, they still drafted Russell Wilson in the 3rd round. I'd have no problem if Jordan Love is the starter next year and Green Bay goes and drafts a quarterback like in the 3rd round or something like that. I wouldn't have a problem with that. Cover your bases. Have a backup plan. I would receive that. Not 1st round, but yeah, if there was a day 2 pick on there, I'd receive that. If that's what you're defining as high, Texter, higher in the draft. Ooh, wouldn't that be a topic of conversation, though, if Green Bay's sitting at 15 and one of those quarterbacks is there? Oh, boy, here we go again. Sort of thing. I don't know. But, yeah, day 2 I'd be okay with. I'd be okay with that. Let's go. It's pretty much all baseball ones right here. Receive or defer. Do you actually think Corbin Burns will lead the National League in wins this year? So this is going back to the Fangraphs projection where they've got Corbin Burns tied with the most wins in the National League at 13. Fangraphs, again, projecting Corbin Burns to win a Triple Crown this upcoming season. I think I'm going to defer that because this Brewers offense is such a wild card. Like, are they going to be able to put up enough runs for Corbin to rack up I don't know, 13 though? I think somebody's going to get more than 13. I think somebody will end up getting more wins than Corbin. I feel like that's going to be the case somewhere in the National League. Whether it's going to be like Verlander with the Mets or Scherzer with the Mets or somebody else. I feel like somebody's going to get more than Corbin Burns. So I guess I'll defer that one. But that's just the offensive thing. I don't know what to expect with this Brewers team currently right now with their offense. Receiver deferred. Do you think the Bucks will make two trades? Two trades right now, before the trade deadline. I thought they would make at least one before the deadline. However, I think now it's going to be two. I don't know how they're going to find all this trade capital, but I feel like they're gonna make at least two moves. They may not be huge splash moves and like starters or anything like that, but I think I'll receive it that I think they make two. For sure, one. I mean, yeah, I think I'll stick with two. I'll stick with two. Maybe another backup guard, maybe another low post defender, maybe like one defender and another shooter somewhere around there. So yeah, I'll receive that. Receiver defer. Would you give AJ Dillon a new contract this offseason? Ooh, so AJ Dillon's going to be entering his last year of his deal. Ooh. That's a tough one because, like, what would his value be? Yeah, I'll receive it because I don't think he's going to go, and I'm not trying to knock him or anything, but I don't think he's going to command like top flight running back, numbers, contract numbers wise. I mean, remember Jamal Williams when he signed with the Lions? I can't remember, and I know he's a free agent now, but it wasn't like a huge contract when he left Green Bay and signed with Detroit. So if we're kind of basing it similar on there, if you're able to lock him up now, yeah, sure. I mean, for the most part, we know he's a big, big dude, quad master, and all that. He's been fairly good at staying healthy, right? I mean, he's for a guy who takes a lot of hits, or he gives a lot of hits there too. So yeah, I mean, if they can do like a 3-year deal, maybe what, 10 million total. I think that was something around what Jamal Williams' contract was. I'd be okay with that. Yeah, receive. Why not? Receive it up. Do it up. Receiver defer. Should the Packers trade for DeAndre Hopkins? I don't know if this is a question that was regarding the latest Vegas odds. So DeAndre Hopkins, according to Bet Online, where will DeAndre Hopkins be traded? The Packers have the best odds, according to Bet Online. There was a report that the Cardinals were looking to trade DeAndre Hopkins this offseason. I'll be curious though if like the Cardinals, if they hire maybe like a Sean Payton or such, do they change that or not? I don't know. Maybe they still would move on from him. Anyways, but yeah, Bet Online has the Packers at a plus 300. The Chiefs are next at plus 450, tied with the Patriots at plus 450. Then it's the Ravens at a plus 700. Wouldn't this be a little ironic? I remember a couple of years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. I think DeAndre was still with the Texans. Rodgers was asked, like a receiver that he would love to throw to or anything like that. And he mentioned DeAndre Hopkins. But wouldn't that be just ironic as all get out? Say Aaron moved on and the Packers somehow trade for DeAndre Hopkins. I'd actually kind of chuckle at that. I say defer. I don't see it happening in terms of financial. Let me bring up Hopkins kind of contract here, because remember that was kind of like the fork in the road when they were trying to figure out Devontae Adams' contract extension. Like the DeAndre Hopkins contract was so like different from all the other wide receiver contracts out there. So it was kind of other wide receivers in their teams. So DeAndre will have a cap hit of, you'd have to adjust this. He's 31. but his cap hit for this year is $30.8 million. Whew. Uh yeah, that's a lot. You'd have to add some void years on that, baby. At the current structure, no, I would defer that. I would defer that, especially if there's no Aaron Rodgers on this ball club. I would defer that. 30.8 according to Spot Track. Holy moly. Yikes. I can see why maybe the Cardinals were trying to move on from him. No, I'll defer it. I'll defer it. Give me some more Watson, Romeo Dobbs. I do think though that the Packers will maybe have to bring in a veteran in the offseason if they don't bring back like Alan Lazard or such, because otherwise that room is going to look really, really, really young in there with Watson and Dobbs kind of being the veterans of the group just heading into their second year. I do feel like, you know, they're going to bring in a veteran, whether it is bringing back Alan Lazard, but also maybe another wide receiver in the draft too. But that's going to be a really young group, I think, coming in next year. So, all right. Do we have time for one more? Yeah, we got time for one more. Receive or defer. Again, a lot of Packers stuff here. This is what kind of drives the conversations every morning, which is okay. Receive or defer. Do you think the Packers should bring in a new offensive coordinator? Um, Now again, I don't know if this is like kind of referring to. Are you talking like offensive coordinator for having somebody to come in and bring, to be the play caller, or like straight up replacing Adam Stenovich as offensive coordinator? Um, I would be game for somebody coming in and being the play caller. Now, I don't know if Adam Stenovich is that guy, but I would be okay with LaFleur maybe giving up play calling. There's so many examples of like where it works, where the head coach, if he's a play caller or not. Kyle Shanahan's a play caller. Obviously, he's got a system that works. Other coaches look like maybe they're a little bit frazzled and maybe can't, that's too much on their plates, sort of thing. And maybe it's because maybe it's just as simple as because Kyle Shanahan was a play caller before he was a head coach, like actually called plays. LaFleur was an offensive coordinator, called plays for 1 year with the Titans. Then he got the head coaching job. Shanahan was calling plays, Cleveland, Atlanta, Washington and that. So he's probably got more experience. He's developed that routine, kind of has the timing down, so he could still do it while being a head coach. Maybe that's the difference in everything. But right now, yeah, I think I'd be okay with LaFleur bringing in somebody else to be a play caller, so he can kind of oversee the entire operation there. You got examples of both working, right? Andy Reid's still doing it. Zach Taylor's doing it with the Bengals. They're in it too. So, All right, final hour kicking off. It's Thirsty Thursday. Appreciate y'all tuning in, however, wherever you may be tuning in. Maybe a little bit more, a little slick out there, so be careful on the roads if you have to travel out there yet. Am I going to cough? Nope, not going to cough. All right, coming up in about, let's say 10-ish minutes, we'll catch up with our good buddy, Mr. Jake Bulks, Wisconsin Conservation Warden, for Outdoor Tidbits. He's actually going to be in studio here for a little bit. So, again, if you have any questions that you want to ask a DNR warden, now's your time to text those babies on over to the Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. I forgot I missed this one on the video stream here. This was a good receiver defer. Does Chris McIntosh, his bold move to go outside the Badger system to breathe new life into the football program, signal a similar change for the basketball program next year? I'll be honest with you. Something like that crossed my mind. I think if this Badger basketball team really continues to struggle, what if they miss the tournament? I think never say never at this point. I think that's what you got. You know what we've seen from Chris McIntosh so far. Never say never. But that might be a good question for RJ coming up on Tuesday. See kind of what everybody's talking about in Madison regarding that. But I'll be honest, it kind of crossed my mind like, oh, is there going to be a little bit of chatter about that? There's going to be a little bit of talk like that. So, all right, let's do a little fired up. You know what's got me fired up here this morning is championship weekend. Obviously, we would love your team or our teams to be in it. In my case, I'd love Green Bay to be in it. But I really think when we look at these final four teams, Chiefs, Bengals, 49ers, and Eagles, we're going to be in for a treat for some good games this weekend. I heard Peter King mention this on Mad Dog the other day. He said, kind of paraphrasing, but he even made the point, he's like, I can't remember, last time where I could make the case for each of these four teams winning the Super Bowl. Like, he can make a legit case, an argument, saying why each of these teams could win a Super Bowl. And I agree. I agree with that. I can definitely see one of these final four teams making it or winning the whole thing. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised with either result this weekend. Maybe what would surprise me the most out of this weekend is if one of these games is an absolute blowout. That would probably be the only thing that would surprise me. But I'm fired up because I think this is going to be some good football this weekend. Because you have some intriguing matchups. You've got the Bengals and the Chiefs. Is this going to develop into a Peyton Manning, Tom Brady-esque rival, right? You have two AFC teams that are not in the division, so they're not a division rival. But once they match up, you're always in for like a classic. You've got Burrow, you've got Pat Mahomes. They're going to develop into something like that. Maybe. Bengals seem to have their number right now. But can they do it for what, a fourth time? Can they upset Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs? Bengals got an edge to them, man. They don't care about going into Kansas City. They're not going to be intimidated by that. Are you kidding? They got an edge about them, man. Joe Burrow? Heck yeah. Then on the flip side, this Eagles and 49ers game. Defense, intriguing. You got some really solid offenses. Can Brock Purdy, does he have another one in him? Can he go into a hostile environment like Philly on the road, trip to the Super Bowl on the line, and can he continue what he has been doing? Like, he didn't have a fantastic game last week, but he wasn't god awful. But can he go into Philly on the road now and get his team to the Super Bowl? I think that matchup is going to be a lot of fun to watch too. So that's I think Sunday is going to be just awesome. Again, you wish your own team was in it, but if we're talking about it just from a straight up football standpoint, this is a good championship weekend. This is a solid championship weekend. Uh, Let me just double check the lines. Are the Bengals actually? I thought I saw somewhere that the Bengals were favored in this game. Let me. I think it was at 1.5. Let me just double check it, see if that changed. By the way, anybody's wondering, the first game on Sunday is going to be the 49ers and Eagles at 2 o'clock, and then it's Bengals Chiefs slated to start at 5:30. So, oh, now it's the spread's even now. Oh, how about that? According to I'm just on the mothership ESPN. Even the 7 Eagles favored by 2.5, 3-point underdog. So I mean, you put that at a neutral site, they've barely got a little bit of an edge for the Chiefs. Heck yeah. That I mean, again, Vegas thinks these are going to be good games and close games too. So bring it on, baby. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Bring it on, baby. All right. So that's what's got me fired up. What's got you fired up? Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, you can let me know with a quick text, 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line. Find me on Twitter at DANKASPER, Facebook.com/Casper Sports. Also, wanted to remind you, we got a new episode of the Man Cave podcast brought to you by Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. That is up. If you like a little history kind of attached to the area, the Chippewa Valley or such, got a podcast episode about former Packers Hall of Famer and Pro Football Hall of Famer, one of the first members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Mr. Johnny Blood McNally up there, and what is his connection to the Chippewa Valley, to Western Wisconsin. So that's up there, and you want to talk about one of the most colorful, interesting, funny characters of all time in sports history, that's Johnny Blood. It's a good thing that Twitter wasn't around for him either. Or maybe we missed out on an opportunity there. So you can check it out on your favorite podcasting platform like iTunes. It's not iTunes anymore, is it? It's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Stitcher, or at our website, sportstalk1051.com. All right, let's take our break, and it's time to do some outdoor tidbits. We'll catch up with our good buddy, Wisconsin DNR warden, Jake Bolks. He's going to be in studio here answering some of your questions, a little bit of a long form with him this morning. So last call, if you got any questions, text those babies on over. That's the easiest way. Okay, 715-830-1912. We'll take that break. And then coming up, it's time for our outdoor tidbits with Jake after these quick words.
We'll begin in Scotland and explore special places like Inverary Castle, Edinburgh Castle, and the Royal Yacht Britannia. We'll then board a ferry and cruise to Northern Ireland, where we'll visit geological and historical sites such as the Giant's Causeway, Glenveigh National Park, and the walled city of Derry. We'll also enjoy agricultural stops like the National Museum of Rural Life, an Irish dairy farm, and much more. Visit Holiday Vacations, keyword WAX, to learn more about this tour August 15th to the 25th, or call 888-557-1020 for a free brochure. Plan to join us in Scotland and Northern Ireland in August.
Because you have high standards and won't settle for anything less, like your wife did. It's the Dan Kasper Show.
All right, we will get to some Thirsty Thursdays coming up here, let's say about 8:45 or so. So if you got anything that you want to give a shout out to, you can text it to us for our Thirsty Thursday segments coming up here. Plus, we'll get back to some come up to some more football talk and hoops talk. But it's time for some outdoor tidbits. I got a fancy intro.
Answering
for you.
your questions
and
giving you the tips you need to be successful and safe in the outdoors. It's time for your outdoor tidbits. Have a question you'd like answered by Jake? Send it to us, and we'll ask for you.
Now you're getting big time.
I was going to say, I feel like I made it finally. Got my own little intro.
See, I was like perfect timing. He's coming in here now, so you got the intro done in time. So
there we go.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Yeah,
real good.
Staying busy.
Staying busy. Staying good. Everyone's healthy and happy at home. So
good deal.
Can't complain.
Young ones still doing.
Young ones are doing good.
Yep.
Life's good.
Awesome.
Gonna do some fishing this weekend.
Oh boy, nice. You had was
it get cold though?
Yeah, I saw that temperature. You got a shack though, or a little pop up? Do you?
I bought a big like family style.
Yeah.
Pop up.
Yeah.
So a big clam last year. So we'll see how that works.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, speaking of ice, it was actually we were talking a little bit off the air, but we had a few people actually text in about was it Pepin Lake or
it was Lake Pepin down there.
With some of the cars that fell in over there. But the main thing everybody was asking is like, do they have to contact you or the DNR if their vehicle falls into water?
Yeah. So the DNR needs to be contacted if it's like a fully submerged bottom of the lake or river. Not going to get it removed that day issue. So in that case, it looks like some trucks fell through. They worked with some tow companies, and I think it was actually the Minnesota Sheriff's Office, Goodhue County. I think it was on the west side of the river. But
okay,
you work with them to get it out. There's nothing you need to report as long as it's removed and stuff like that. The law is if, say, your ATV, snowmobile, ice shack, truck goes through the water, you have 30 days to remove it per state law.
Okay.
And then we'll work with you to make sure it's not spilling and it's removed. But that's about it.
That's okay. So they don't you're not one of the first ones they have to call or anything.
No.
It's pretty much tow truck and police.
Tow truck, sheriff's department, unless you got, an oil tank in the back of your truck that's just leaking oil everywhere or something like that. Or you're in a milk truck and that thing tips over. Give us a call for a spill reason.
Somebody also asked for ice fishing. Is there any, and I don't know, this might be kind of an open-ended question, very vague, but they're wondering, is there any like restrictions on like ice shanties? Because, sometimes we see some people have these big,
Sure.
fancy looking, maybe better than houses out there.
There's some real nice ones out there.
Is there any type of restrictions? Maybe they're asking like on size or what anything is on there or anything like that?
No, it's pretty generally open to whatever you want. If you want to bring out a tarp and a couple pieces of wood to make a shack, you can. If you want to bring out the Taj Mahal of all ice clams, ice houses, bring them out. The most important thing is there are some like removal dates for if you have permanent shacks and stuff, and depending on where you're at, it could be the first weekend after March, it could be the second weekend after March, but You just have to have permanent shacks removed by a certain time, so in case the ice goes out quick.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, you can bring out whatever you want. The only regulation when it comes to that is all ice shacks, whether it's a permanent or like a pop-up, if you're leaving it overnight or if you're leaving it to go into town for something, you have to mark it with either your DNR customer ID or your name and address.
Okay. So
they
that
just
has
have
to be on there.
marked.
Okay.
Yep, everyone has to. And if you don't, I have a big fat Sharpie with me. We'll mark it when I get out there.
Nice. I like that. So that's good. I didn't know that part, that you have to have that marked
And
out
the
there.
big reason for that is because come every March, there's always one person on almost every lake that
Mhm.
leaves a crappy old shack out there or something like that. And if it's not identified, then we can't call that person to remind them to get it off. And sometimes people do that intentionally, and that's obviously a big litter issue and
Mhm.
problem. So we
Right.
want them all marked when they're out there.
This one actually kind of came through. Maybe something for football or not football season. I got football in my mind.
Football in the mind.
Right. Hunting season. Somebody asked, can you sight in a rifle on public land?
Generally, yes. So any property you go to, whether it's state public land or county public land or like a VPA land or something, the best thing to do is go onto the internet, type that property in, and just see if they have documentation saying yes you can, no you can't.
Mhm.
Most state lands and most county forests allow it.
Okay.
You just have to just double check. The best thing is always to reach out to them. There are like some state natural areas, some state park areas that don't allow target shooting or rifle shooting.
Mhm.
So you want to check that. But for the most part, generally you could go into the county forest or state land and target practice and stuff.
Gotcha.
We just really recommend if you're going to go out there and sight stuff in or shoot clays, which I'm not a huge fan of that because it's really hard to pick up all the clay
Right.
pigeons, is you got to pick everything up. Pick up all your brass, pick up everything. Otherwise, it's considered littering. And I get a lot of complaints on that every year.
Gotcha. That's a good note there too. We got looks like somebody JB and EC they want to start, and we kind of went through this one off the air because it just came in. Trout fishing in our area of Eau Claire in western Wisconsin, how to start. Kind of an open-ended one there, but you mentioned maybe like a mentor kind of thing.
Yeah, so trout fishing, it can be as simple as any other fishing where you just grab a rod and
Mhm.
a lure and just go up and down the creek and cast and retrieve.
Mhm.
Obviously there's a lot of finesse to trout fishing and different things, and you could be super into it and have all these special flies and lures and poles and everything, or
Right.
you could just be like me and walk up and down with a rooster tail. But the best thing to do is, one, read the regulations. Trout fishing has its own regs. I'm not I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes it can be a little confusing when you're reading through it all,
Mhm.
but that's why read through it on the area you want to fish. Make sure you understand what you can use, what you can't use in that stream you're going to use, or something like that. But the best thing to do, and the DNR does offer some learn to fish classes, but really the best thing to do is maybe on Facebook find like a local trout fishing Facebook group or something,
Okay.
and see if someone's willing to offer you some tips, like meet up with them, fish with them, kind of find a mentor like you just mentioned, because those people are going to have the best
Mhm.
info. They're going to be the experienced ones, and maybe they can help you get to where you want to be.
Because there are some streams or creeks around here for trout fishing, right?
There's actually a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them in the Eau Claire, Chippewa area, and kind of this whole driftless region, southwest Wisconsin has a lot of good trout fishing.
Yeah.
In
That's something
places
I've
you-
wanted to try is fly fishing. I've never tried that.
Yeah,
I wanna
I
try that.
haven't either. It looks pretty complicated.
I know, it's like I might get like, I don't know if I have the patience for that.
Yeah. To be honest, I've learned that you can just take your old pole with a small rooster tail or something like that, a small
Mhm.
spinner bait, and you can do pretty decent trout fishing,
yeah,
just like you would any other type of fishing.
Because I remember, I think they still do it, but Medford, when I was there, when I lived there growing up, the Black River kind of went through town
Yeah.
there,
Yep.
and they always stocked that with trout.
Yeah.
And I remember always just catching little trouts all the time, and I thought that was the coolest thing because you go to these lakes, and at that, the lakes around Taylor County, there was no trout in there, but
Yeah.
go downtown Medford and
And there's
cast in the
trout
Black
there.
River, there's a little trout over there. So
Yeah, there's a lot of little places like that around here, and some of these creeks, if you take the time to walk up and down them or just walk further than the parking lot, you can
Mhm.
get into some cool fishing and some big brown trout and different things like that. And the catch and release season is open right now for trout. If
Okay.
people weren't familiar with that, a couple years ago they instituted this early season trout fishing, catch and release only, artificial baits, no live bait, nothing like that. to get people that want to go out there, the diehards, and fish. They can fish. But there's a lot of rules with it, so you just gotta double check.
You got like trout stamps on there too, right?
Yep. Anytime you go trout fishing, if you're targeting trout or salmon, you have to have a inland. If you're in Wisconsin, an inland trout and salmon stamp. If you're going to go out on Lake Michigan or Lake Superior and you're targeting them, you need the Great Lakes trout and salmon stamp. If you are just fishing and you randomly catch a trout and that's not your goal, that's not your target, kind of like if you're catfishing and you catch a sturgeon, you don't have to have that trout stamp, but you have to release the fish. If you don't have the stamp, you can't keep it.
Gotcha.
But you're not going to get in trouble for unintentionally catching it.
Gotcha. Okay. Somebody's texting in about snowmobiling. They said, I'm not a snowmobiler, so I don't know. So if this sounds stupid, I'm sorry.
I'm sure it's just fine.
Is there any, I'm trying to, because I think it might be talk to text. Is there any time frames where people cannot snowmobile? Like, I'm assuming, can they do it 24 hours? Maybe that's what they're asking.
Yeah. You can. I mean, technically, you could snowmobile in Wisconsin 365 days a year. You could, if we got a blizzard on July 4th, you could be out snowmobiling.
Don't. That might happen.
Right. So. You never know. The main things that they might be getting at is if the trails aren't open, you can't ride on any of the trail systems, even if they're groomed. If the trails, let's say in Eau Claire County, are closed because they expect to warm up later in the day, or some of the other spots of the trail are poor, so they're just closing everything. You can't ride. There are a lot of exemptions for snowmobiles where you can ride on town roads, like on the shoulder, or you can kind of, quote unquote, ditch bang. You can go so far off the highway and stuff like that, but that can only get you so far before you hit a stream or something like that. So most importantly is, if you're going to ride snowmobiles, you can ride them when the trails are open. Stay on the trails. Don't deviate from that. If you're on the trails, you have to have a trail pass as well as valid registration. And then the only kind of nighttime rules is that at night, you can't drive faster than 55 miles per hour.
Okay.
Because you're out driving your headlights, and that's where most people come up over a hill at 70, 80, 100 miles an hour and go right into a tree or into a swamp or something like that. And then generally, if you're operating after 10:30, you get close to any other cars or houses, you got to be 10 miles an hour on your snowmobile. But that's about it.
Okay.
Otherwise, 365, go for it. 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day.
As long as the trails are open, if that's what you're riding.
And can they do that in town? I think I asked you this last year, sometimes after a snowstorm, somebody might run it up and down the street or something like that. It's not on a trail. So
there's an exemption for if you're accessing a trail, but there's no trails. The closest trails to Eau Claire, like the city here, you got to kind of get down south out of the city or west.
Gotcha.
Down 85 and stuff like that. So if you're riding around in downtown Altoona, Eau Claire, it's going to be illegal. And the big thing to check is if you do want to try to access a trail system from more of an urban location, just check the city ordinances. All the cities, even up in Elk Mound, they have an ordinance that allows either this or doesn't allow that. So I know Eau Claire and Altoona would have an ordinance that would tell you.
Interesting. Jake Bolks, our conservation warden, joining us here this morning in studio, answering your questions here. I got another question kind of popping through here. See, I ask them for them ahead of time, then they come right when you're in here. So, just right on the.
No, it's perfect.
Maybe they don't believe me when I say that you're coming in or something like that.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
Might flake out on you.
He's like, I apologize. I could just look this up, but is there any hunting seasons going on right now?
There's actually a few. So without getting into everything, in Eau Claire County, archery deer season is still open.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah, It goes all the way through the 31st, which I think is next Monday or Tuesday.
Yep.
So they decided to do a holiday hunt in Eau Claire County, which gives them the opportunity to extend the archery season if they want. The CDAC committee decided to do that. So until next Tuesday, you could archery hunt buck or doe. You can still fill your tags. And then there's some other ones. Most of the game birds and the big game and stuff are closed, but there still is the squirrel season's open. Coyote seasons, well, that's open year round. There's some trapping seasons still open. Bobcats season still open. you still have to have a tag for that, but that's open through the 31st. So there's a few. What I like to tell everyone is if you want to get out and harvest something, if you go to our website and just type in hunting, there's a page of like, there's just one like PDF page where it's just all the hunting seasons, shows all the dates, times for the entire year of 2022, 2023. Look at that, and you might find a species you're like, oh, I'll go harvest some rabbits today, or maybe I'll take my bull out one more time, or whatever the case may be.
Gotcha. I did not. So this brings up something I just popped up. So you mentioned buck or doe. Maybe some deer are shedding antlers right now. Is it kind of the same rule like during hunting season, under 3 inches sort of thing?
Yep. So even if you harvest what you think's an antlerless deer and it's a buck, or it's a male,
right?
If it doesn't have antlers, it's an antlerless deer. So you'd register it as a doe.
Okay.
I know there's some people in the hunting community that doesn't like this extended season because you might shoot a deer that you might want to let go thinking it's a doe, but it ends up being that buck that was your next year's buck.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there. If there's an opportunity to harvest deer and someone wants it, go for it. But yeah, so the rules when it comes to harvesting deer, doesn't really matter what the sex is of the animal. It's either it has 3-inch antlers or 1 3-inch antler and it's a buck and it has to be registered accordingly. Or if it has 2 antlers or 1 antler or 2 antlers less than 3 inches or no antlers, it's an antlerless deer.
Okay.
And that's so you register it as an antlerless deer.
I've never found a shed, but have you found sheds walking around before?
I found a few sheds here and there.
Every time I go and look, I can't find any.
Yeah, a lot of people say the squirrels get to them pretty good and stuff.
Yeah.
And then just like kind of morel mushroom hunting, I think shed hunting is becoming more and more popular.
Yeah.
People with shed dogs and stuff like that. So
because you can see the training things now, like the training antler or something like that.
Yep. So I think the sheds are out of the woods sooner than they used to be. So you might not get a chance.
So since you just saw that, I'm sure you've seen the videos or for magnet fishing.
Yeah. Yep.
What if somebody like, I'll YouTube it. Like I think that's cool to try.
It's interesting.
What if somebody finds a gun? What do they got to do?
I'd call the sheriff's department right away.
Yeah.
You don't want to be walking around with what might be a stolen gun or a gun used in the commission of a crime type thing.
Yeah. Like I feel like I want to try that, but then it's like, what if I do find something?
Yeah.
Like
if you find something weird, you call the sheriff and they'll, if it's something DNR related, they'll give us a call. If it's something they can handle, if it's something where it's like, it's yours, abandoned property, whatever. But yeah, magnet fishing, you don't need any license because it's not a wild animal or anything like that. You can do it. The only thing, if you go and do that, just make sure you're doing it in a safe spot and just respect any law enforcement officer that comes up and talks with you. Because if you go off some bridge here in Eau Claire, Altoona, and start throwing line and magnets in the water, I can guarantee someone's going to call the police department or sheriff's department and be like, this guy's doing something, So it's going to be common for them just to come up and see what you're doing and stuff. And as long as you're being respectful or you're in a place where you're allowed to be to do it and you're not, disrupting anything, technically nothing illegal about it.
So you mentioned the mushroom one too. Do they need permits, things?
No special licenses. Wild mushrooms aren't regulated by the DNR. However, if you're on state lands throughout the state doesn't allow anyone to harvest like wildflower seeds and certain species of vegetation, I guess. So if you're going to go onto like a state natural area or state land or anything state related, Google it, because every piece of state property has its own page on our DNR website. So you can go on there and it's going to show what you can and can't do and who the contact is for that property. So if you have questions, call that contact person. But you can, if you have permission on private property or even state land, you can go out and look for morels or whatever, chicken of the sea or whatever they call that one,
Like I always get nervous, like, when I see people do that, I'm like, obviously they got to know the difference, but I don't know if you watch The Office. When Michael's out there, and
a few times.
Then Dwight, like, he's like eating mush, and I'm like, that would probably be me if I tried that.
I'm smart enough to know mushrooms will never be on my survival diet. I'd be the first one to put the wrong one in my mouth.
I know, that's like
make it one day.
Man, that would be me trying something like that. So, we got another question here. You said this happened to me in hunting season during rifle season. I was in my tree, but then somebody put up a tree stand about 20 yards from me and didn't move. Is there any sort of thing like first come, first serve, or Is that something I have to kind of work out with that other
Yeah,
hunter?
that's unfortunately like a cultural thing to have to work through, or a
Mm-hmm.
personality thing. So when it comes to hunting, and I assume they're talking about public land,
Mm-hmm.
because on private land, if
Yeah,
that
kick him
person
out of
doesn't have
there.
permission, yeah, kick them out or call the sheriff's department.
Mm-hmm.
On public land, even if there's, you build a dead stick blind, or you're north of 64 and you leave your stand or something, technically it's kind of first come first serve, and there isn't any restriction on how close someone can hunt with you. So hypothetically, if you're hunting Eau Claire County Forest, somebody walks up, puts up a climber stand right next to you, you guys could give each other knuckles, you're so close. Obviously that's horrible from a hunting
Right.
experience, but there's nothing illegal about it, unless they're telling you that the point of doing it is that they're trying to harass you or harass the hunt so you don't harvest anything.
Mm-hmm.
There is hunter fisher or like trapping harassment, but they have to, if they say, hey, I like hunting this spot too, it's a good game trail, sorry, we're both going to hunt it. But if he comes up and puts a stand, says, I'm going to make sure you never shoot a deer sitting here, that could be considered hunter harassment.
Right.
And that goes the same for ice fishing too, or fishing in general with a boat or with a nice shack, is that if you got your shack set up and someone comes 1 foot away from you and drops their permit or wants to
Mm-hmm.
fish right there, legally there's nothing. Now, is there going to be an exchange of words and probably some issues with that? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But legally, I can't come out there and say, hey, move your shack 20 feet
Right.
away or something.
I see that a lot of people, like, they'll go on Facebook or whatever and be like, I drilled a hole here, and then somebody shows up, drills one night, at
Yeah.
the whole lake, and they drill it 10 feet away from you or
Yeah.
something like that. But
Yeah.
so there's
That's pretty common in, like, especially like hot fishing holes in the summer on the rivers. Like
mm-hmm.
you could walk from boat to boat to boat, and in some places they know that's the norm, so it's okay. In other places, people are like, you got the whole lake and you come sit right here. Legally, there's nothing. Now, some other states might have some other rules. Like I know Minnesota has a rule for how close your ice shacks can be and stuff like that. But in Wisconsin, it's kind of, public land and public water is public area, and
Mm-hmm.
anyone can go anywhere, even 1 foot away from each other.
All right. We got a couple more if you got
I got time.
got some time here. Yeah. So speaking of ice fishing here, I think we might have touched on this a couple weeks ago, but maybe a good refresher here. Somebody said, I'm going to be doing an ice fishing tournament. Is there any special rules when it comes to ice fishing tournaments, or is it straight up same DNR rules with regulations?
Yeah, straight up same DNR regulations. The individual tournament might have some special rules, like, catch and release, or
Mm-hmm.
bring it up, or we don't want you to keep a fish unless it's this big, or whatever it may be. But the only rules that come with ice fishing tournaments is who's ever organizing it, and depending on how many people show up and if they have prizes and stuff like that, it has to be permitted.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, it's just follow the same DNR rules. So like if you're doing an ice fishing tournament on Lake Altoona, and you're fishing for a walleye category, the walleye regulations are the seeded territory, which is 3 fish, 3 walleyes, 15 to 20 inches, you can keep them. 20 to 24, you have to release them, and you can keep one over 24. That is the same every day of the year, whether you're in a tournament or not.
Okay.
The big thing for tournaments, and I know we kind of talked about it a few weeks ago, but
yeah.
if you're going to go register a fish, or do whatever, you got to go buy a ticket, and you're only going to be gone 5-10 minutes. You still got to reel in your tip ups.
Oh, yeah.
I see it really common, and we obviously use discretion, but if you're going to fall asleep in the middle of the night, if you're going to go take a fish, if you got to go to the bathroom, just reel your tip ups up. Even if you reel them up and you keep the minnow or the line right, 1 inch in the water because you want to save your sucker, that's fine if you show us that your thing's right there. But if we come back and your sucker's 20 feet in the water,
mm-hmm.
There's nothing, or we open the door and there's no one there, but your rattle reels are still down. I mean, it's an unintended line.
Right. I'm glad you brought up tip ups, because that was actually our next question. So it transitions nicely in there.
I know what I'm doing.
Exactly. This might have been a similar question. I think for some reason I remember something like this, but they're asking, does a tip up line count as a regular fishing line? So
Yes.
the 3 on there. Okay.
Yeah. So the rule, I can't quote it verbatim, but the law in Wisconsin is you're allowed up to 3 baits, hooks, or lures.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily like 3 lines, but that's what we all call it. It's
Mm-hmm.
slang technically, but it's 3 hooks, baits, or lures. And a tip up counts just like if you had a jig and pole in your hand. which counts just like if you had a rattle reel or a jack jaw or a whatever kind of fishing implement or device you have. Every time you have something in the down and you're trying to catch a fish, it's going to count towards the line.
Okay. So that does count as is
Yep.
it 3?
So you get three
Yep.
in Wisconsin. So if you get so if you put one tip up down, obviously you can put 2 more tip ups down, or you can jig with 2 poles, or put a tip up down, whatever you want to do. So
Right.
they all count towards a line. The main thing to watch for that is, and this is more common on river systems, but I've seen people where they'll put a hook at the bottom of their line, and then like every 3 feet they tie another hook.
Yeah.
So that's why the law isn't per line; it's per hook, bait, or lure. So if you
Gotcha.
have a line with a hook every, let's say, 2 feet, and you have 3 hooks on there, that's your 3 hook limit right there. You're fishing with one line, but you have your 3 hooks, and
Gotcha.
so say you put 3 fishing poles out with 3 hooks like that per line. Now you're at 9 line. You're 300 times over the limit, or whatever that math is,
Right.
and you're in violation.
But treble hook obviously doesn't.
Treble hook
Yep.
is one hook, just like
Yep.
like a Rapala.
Yep.
That's going to be considered a bait.
Okay.
The different hooks on each side of it aren't going to count as separate
Count
ones.
as
Like
ones,
it's
yeah.
one piece of a bait.
Gotcha. That's good though. I didn't know. I didn't realize. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, when
People,
you think about it.
yeah, kind of playing around with that system there.
Yep.
Tricksters.
There's a lot of little trickster things you can do, but that's why we get paid to figure that out, right?
Exactly. There was, I think it was last week when you mentioned the guy with the scuba, like fishing underwater.
Yeah. Yep.
We actually had a texter, works at Zaco, and he says one of his clients does that up north.
Yeah.
It has videos, and he said he's watched some of those videos. He's like, it's insane.
Yeah,
Something
it's
on there. I'd love
interesting.
to watch one of those.
Yeah,
like,
there's a lot of cool things that people do that isn't of the norm when it comes to hunting, fishing, and trapping. And as long as it fits within our regulations, I say go for it and enjoy the resources however you want. Just make sure it fits within our laws.
And I just one popped up in my head because I just saw an article about it the other day. Since we're talking about like recording, is there any restrictions like recording your own hunt? Like if you go in a tree stand, you got those stuff that you can put on a bow. And I saw an article, like I think it was a YouTube show. A couple got fined thousands of dollars because I think they might have gotten deer without tagging it or something like that. But is there any restrictions like having that camera on your bow or having a GoPro or anything like that?
In Wisconsin, there isn't any restrictions on like hunting or documenting your hunt. The only thing I can think of when it comes to like trail cameras and different things is if you're like a big time antler hunter or trophy hunter, there are some like Boone and Crockett or different organizations that don't allow. They won't count your deer if you try to register with them and you use a game camera, trail camera, or like a Reconyx that's sending you live stuff.
Okay.
They won't let you document it because I think I don't know the reason, but I assume it's part of like the fair chase and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Where they just want you to be a hunter that goes out there and hunts them. So there's nothing in Wisconsin that says you can't have a camera, you can't document your hunt, stuff like that. But if you're, if it ends up taping a public area and you're getting people doing other stuff, maybe ask them for consent or stuff like that. But you're allowed. You're in a public space or private, and you're allowed to do it.
Okay.
I know cameras aren't allowed during sturgeon spearing over in, or isn't going to be allowed. There's no lights allowed in sturgeon spearing over on the Lake Winnebago area.
Okay.
I think they're going to work on limiting cameras, but right now it's just no lights, no artificial lights. So if you use a camera over there, make sure you tape up the lights and stuff like that on the cameras.
Gotcha. Yeah. And no thermal stuff for hunting too. When you said that,
there's
see that. I see people like you go to like a magazine, it's like, hey, you got a thermal camera here, and I'm like,
yeah,
that'd be
thermal
cool,
cameras and different things. There's rules on it. There's a lot of coyote hunters that talk about infrared camera or scopes and different things like that, and we have a law that talks about how if it's collecting light and different things, it's illegal. But if you are wondering on that, you just have to call your local warden and talk with the gear you're using and have them talk with you about the regulations, because some stuff fits in our regulations and it's legal and other stuff doesn't. And that's the same with like air rifles and different kinds of these new guns and bows and stuff come out. Sometimes they're legal per the regulations, but a lot of time they're not.
Can somebody just text? I promise this will be the last.
Oh, you're fine. I got all day.
They said, since you just mentioned thermal, can people use that for tracking a deer? The thermal like camera sort of thing
for tracking.
Yeah.
That's another, like, I don't want to say gray area because I don't like using
is it
that
kind of like that
term,
droid camera
but it's
sort
like
of
the
thing?
drone thing.
Yeah,
It's
or
just
drone,
kind
yeah.
it's just kind of like the best thing to do is just do it old school where you're using your eyes in a flashlight, or you're following the blood, or you get a dog and you have no weapons with you. If you have questions on using drones and thermal and this and that, because it all depends on if the deer is alive and all this kind of stuff. So that's where someone could be doing something that might feel like the right thing, and maybe it is, but the second you spook the deer and you're like, oh, it's alive, and now you're using a drone or thermal or this or that, you're in violation, and it's just not a great place to be. So just call your local warden and have that discussion with them, because we're more than happy to try to help find the answer and either say, yeah, what you're doing is good, or modify it this way and you'll be fine, or something like that.
I've been seeing a lot of people now on Facebook too with their dogs kind of like offering that service for tracking and that.
Yeah, and that's a great service. Like those dogs are, I mean, they're dogs. They're used for so many things in this society. It's awesome. The main thing with that, and if they have dogs, they know it. There's some leash requirements, and you can't have any firearms or weapons with you and stuff and whatnot. But those guys, they know the regulations. They know what they're doing.
Right. So good stuff. JK, I know I kept you for over half an hour.
No,
there,
we're
but,
good. It's fun. It goes quick.
Yeah, it does.
Those good questions today.
Crap. Yeah,
a lot of them.
A lot of good ones, kind of all over the place. But that's the best one there too. So,
oh yeah, for sure.
Any deadlines that you know off the top of your head coming up here that's for tag wise or anything? But
nothing crazy. I think I was looking at it earlier. I think like the elk tag is the next one, but that's not till May.
Okay.
For next fall. Other than that, right now we're in that kind of time period where there are some open like small game seasons and deer. Those will all be closing typically by the end of February. And then a lot of the fishing seasons like walleye, northern, stuff like that closes right at the beginning of May, I believe. Or is it? No. Let's see. No, March, excuse me. So, the end of February, beginning of March, that's when most of our stuff's going to be closed down. The March, April, May, that time frame is where most stuff is closed besides turkey hunting. And then once the beginning of May comes, fishing season opens, boating's typically starting to get going. So that's when it gets busy again. So just watch those season dates for closures coming up here in February and the beginning of March.
Good tip there too. And then I'm assuming like the leftover turkey tags will be coming up in a couple months too.
Yeah, those will be coming up. I think it's usually like the third week in March where they do all the bonus stuff, and those have been popular lately. I know I got my third pick, which is just like any season in zone 4 or whatever. So I know I didn't get any of my top picks either. So and I know some other guys that didn't get it for the second year in a row. So there must be a lot of people putting in.
Must be, because I think got the calendar up. I think I got it the April 18th, 19th through the 23rd, somewhere around there that week. Because I just like, I got to do it before the NFL draft. That's when I had to do it. So I got it the week before that. So
nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
Usually I always got them in May. So I was, it's really warm and all that stuff.
No, that's good.
I'm hoping, fingers crossed, man.
This is the year.
Yeah, I know. I got one 2 years ago by pure accident.
Yeah.
Just because I was done. I was like, I spooked one out, but then I saw one and I'm like, I'm just going to practice calling.
Sure.
Like, and all of a sudden it just answered and it started coming.
Really? That's fun.
That's like, I was hooked at that instant.
That's good. Sometimes it can be hard to call them in depending on the season, stuff like that.
Because I didn't know if I was doing it too much or, not enough, but that guy came.
Fun. That's awesome.
He was excited. So, and that's like that, just to see like that, because I've never been able to call a deer in. Well, one time I did, but to hear a response and see it working in that.
Yeah,
that's
actually, you brought that turkey and that's fun stuff. It's not very common. I'm not a good caller. I usually get another warden to come call for me because he knows what he's doing. I just kind of sit there and hope they come walking by.
Yeah, it's like it was the first time that was actually I think the second time I've ever gone turkey hunting too. So
really?
It was just and nobody taught me, so I'm just kind of like
figuring it out.
Yeah, YouTubing it and all that, and
clearly you must know what you're doing a little bit.
I don't know about that. It might just be wrong at that point. All right, Jake, appreciate it, man. Be safe out there, and let's catch up again next week. Okay?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Always a good time.
You got it. All right, we got to take our final break here this morning. Then we'll finish up some stuff. We only got a few minutes to the top of the hour anyway, so we'll be back after these quick words.
You're listening to the Dan Kasper Show.
Keep your feet warm and dry this winter with the Shoe Doctor in Eau Claire. Only the Shoe Doctor has over 4,500 styles of footwear and personalized fitting for everyone in your family. It's backed by the Shoe Doctor's exclusive 30-day comfort guarantee, so you'll walk away happy. The selection, brands, sizes, widths, service, and prices that fit just right. Come see for yourself at the Shoe Doctor. Easy to find. 2321 Claremont near Fairfax in Eau Claire.
What are your New Year's resolutions? Is one of your resolutions to try and help your community out more, but you're not sure where or how you can help? Well, let me suggest the Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity. There are many different ways you can help and be involved in Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity. You want to help in home building or repairs? Habitat for Humanity is always looking for helpers. And if home building or repairs aren't your thing, but you still want to help out, there are other areas for you to help volunteer in, like fundraising and volunteering at the Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity Restore. And speaking of the Restore, want to know another way that you can help? It's a fun one, by shopping at the Restore and donating your items like furniture, appliances, building supplies, and more to the Restore. See, there's so many different ways that you can help out your community by helping Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity. For more information, just visit cvh4h.org to learn more. And stop on by and visit the Chippewa Valley Habitat for Humanity Restore at 145 North Claremont Avenue in Eau Claire.
So much snow already this winter, and people just keep getting stuck on the roads. Wonder if Gene at Chilson Subaru can do something about it. Hi, Gene.
Absolutely. You know how to conquer winter. It's in a new Subaru. And we have an excellent selection of pre-owned, certified Subaru Outback, Forester, Legacy, Crosstrek, Ascent, and Impreza models to choose from. Purchase a certified Subaru and receive our 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty and its factory back coverage from Subaru. Subaru offers great gas mileage, standard all-wheel drive, and on our certified models, our 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. And we now have over 60 pre-owned Subarus in stock and ready to go.
If you're ready to conquer winter in a new-to-you Subaru, get it done at Chilson. Gene, how do we test drive one?
Call, click, or visit Chilson Subaru on Highway 93 in Eau Claire, or visit us on the web at chilsonsubaru.com. And remember, let our family take care of your family.
My purpose at C&G. I get the pleasure of manufacturing plastic film, and this film protects Americans across the nation with providing fresh, safe, and sustainable products across many different product lines for the food, medical, and industrial industries. Who should join us? All levels of experience are welcome. We will get you to the next level with our strong training team. You should join me at C&G to accelerate your career and earnings. Apply at cnginc.com.
When you open up a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van, you're unlocking potential. The potential to do your own thing. Be your own boss. Steer your own success. Blaze your own trail. Each and every Sprinter van built, designed, and equipped to let you hit the open road and take on any goal. To help you follow your passions, reawaken that spirit of adventure, check all of those big, bold, exciting experiences off your bucket list. Owning a Sprinter van lets you live, work, and play out your dreams wherever they take you. 16 body types, a choice of gas or diesel engine, thousands of ways to customize. It's capable and versatile enough to help drive your ambitions. And now you can win your own Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van customized by Gretsch RV by entering the Dan Patrick Show's Ultimate Fan Van Sweepstakes. To enter, get official rules, visit danpatrick.com for your chance to win the Sprinter van. So go ahead, now's the time. Unlock your potential inside a Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van.
We've gotten some weird weather so far this season in Wisconsin, and it's had a big impact on some of our roads so far. Potholes, snow-covered, ice, you name it. And that can wreak some havoc on your vehicle. Just the other day, I hit a big pothole. I didn't even notice that thing, and I was holding my breath, hoping that nothing went wrong with my tire or my tie rods or something else. But if something does happen, or maybe something has happened with your vehicle, I know I can go to ASAP Used Auto Parts for help. If I needed to replace my tire or get new ones, ASAP Used Auto Parts has me covered, because I know from my own experience they have the best deals on tires in the Chippewa Valley. And if these winter roads did cause me to have to get a repair, I know I can save some money on a high quality used auto part from ASAP Used Auto Parts, and I know they will help me find the exact part I'll need or what I'm looking for. Chances are we're going to be in for some more weird weather that will affect our vehicles. Just know, though, that if you need help finding that part, getting some tires, or a battery, or even just getting an oil change, ASAP Used Auto Parts is there to help you out.
ECCT proudly presents Little House on the Prairie at the RCU Theater February 3rd through the 5th. Originally produced by the Guthrie Theater, this musical follows the Ingalls family as they journey westward to make a better life for their children. In story, song, and dance, the show follows Laura as she grows from the wild child who loved to run free into a woman who embraces the responsibilities of her own future. Get your tickets now at pablocenter.org.
The VFW Post 305 on Star Avenue in Eau Claire, where breakfast is served 7 days a week, 7 to 11 a.m. And if you're looking for a Friday fish fry, look no further. Try the VFW Post 305 on Star Avenue. And after the Friday fish fry, stay for the karaoke from 9 to 1 a.m. Bands are back on the weekends at the VFW, 8 p.m. to midnight. And Sundays from 2:30 to 6:30 p.m., the DJ plays your favorite oldies hits. VFW Post 305 on Star Avenue, Eau Claire, where no one does more for veterans and their community.
He may not be the smartest sports talk host, but darn it, he gives 110% every time. Now here's your host, Dan Kasper.
All right, we only got about a minute or two left, so big thanks to Jake. Jake's actually getting my Thirsty Thursday shout out here this morning. Big thanks for him always popping on Thursday and answering your questions. That's where the questions are coming from you. So thank you to everybody who texted in some of those questions for our outdoor tidbits. Reminder, you can always send those babies on over ahead of time too. If it's a Saturday or it's a Sunday and you're sitting around, or maybe you're even, maybe you're actually fishing and something pops up. Like, hey, I want to ask Jake that. Send it on over whenever you want, okay? We'll ask it for Jake, but big thanks for him for stopping in and answering your questions there. So tomorrow we're going to make our picks, championship weekend picks. So you could play along with us as well. Who do you got going to the Super Bowl? Who are you going to pick? All right, think about it a little bit. This is tough. I'll be honest with you right now. I'm still going back and forth. I'm going a little bit back and forth on this thing. So, but we'll make our picks and kind of talk about that. Brandon will be in tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have Dr. Crow for another Inside the Training Room. Maybe talk a little bit about the Patrick Mahomes high ankle sprain. He wasn't wearing a brace or anything like that. It looked like he was walking fairly normal yesterday. So, but we'll see. All right, that's going to do it for us. DP and Dance, they're up next. Have a fantastic day.
WAYY Eau Claire, W286CK Eau Claire, Sports Talk 105.1 and 790 AM.
If you missed the show, you can podcast it. If you want to see the show, just go to Peacock and we stream it live every weekday.